Today, I'd like to talk to you about climate change and why people say that it's structurally racist. I know that when the word racist comes up, people can get really defensive and they can get their back up, and I understand why. However, the word on its own is not an attack, and also it's really telling when you're more offended by the word than you are about the racism that's in question. When people say that climate change is structurally racist, they're highlighting the fact that climate change activism has historically been built for white, middle-class pursuits. Climate change will affect everyone, and that's not up for discussion. What is up for discussion is why people of colour are left out of the conversation that arguably they have the closest link to. How can something like climate change be predominantly geared towards white, middle-class people? I'll tell you. Take, for example, some of the tactics that activist groups use. One would be purposely getting arrested during strikes. I can guarantee that for a lot of people of colour, that will not resonate with them. Not when they've had to suffer through very public examples of police brutality and have potentially themselves had adverse dealings with the police. There is nothing that appeals to me about potentially getting arrested. Not only because even at my big age of 24, I know my mum would absolutely kick off, but also because there's no guarantee of how that would go. A lot of these climate change groups paint pictures of dystopian futures to scare people into making climate change decisions. It is true, that is possibly what our future could look like. But for some people, it's not too far removed from their present experiences of poverty and austerity. Think about the communities who are more likely to be affected by air pollution. We know that people of colour are more likely to be exposed to greater levels of air pollution. We also know that people of colour are more likely to live in deprived areas. Does that sound like a middle class problem to you? What about the fact that in these conversations, we often leave out voices of people from the global south? We're talking about people who are already suffering the effects of climate change. A lack of awareness of people's current experiences just goes to show the levels of disconnect between these climate change groups and the people who are really most likely to feel the effects of climate change. A movement cannot be considered progressive if it excludes many voices from the conversation. Because the thing is, it's not that there aren't any ethnic minority voices in the conversation. There are. It's just that they're not being heard enough. I know I feel more engaged with issues when I see people like me involved. People from similar backgrounds, people with similar experiences, people who can represent me. I'm not saying the climate change conversation isn't progressive because ethnic minorities can't get involved. I'm saying it's not progressive because ethnic minority voices are going unheard. Anyway guys, I'm all out of tea, so I'll see you next time for more.